The story begins with a group of detectives attempting to capture a drug courier at a crowded nightclub. However, their carefully planned operation falls apart when a dancer unexpectedly steals the bag containing the drugs and disappears before anyone can stop her. Meanwhile, in a poor neighborhood, a quiet man named Tae-sik is returning home carrying a bouquet of flowers. As he approaches his pawn shop, he is greeted by a young girl named Somi. Tae-sik is known for keeping to himself and avoiding relationships with other people, but Somi is the one exception. Although she used to steal from him in the past, she now insists that she has changed. One day, Somi visits Tae-sik's pawn shop to pawn her MP3 player. After receiving some money, she notices the food Tae-sik has prepared for himself and casually remarks that she likes it. Feeling a rare sense of sympathy toward her, Tae-sik invites her inside to share the meal with him. The pawn shop also serves as his home, so the two sit together and begin eating. Their peaceful moment is interrupted when Somi's mother suddenly calls out for her. Panicked, Somi quickly hides underneath the table. Tae-sik tells her mother that Somi is not inside, but she refuses to believe him and demands that he open the door. Thinking quickly, Tae-sik knocks over a bowl to create a distraction. By the time he opens the door, Somi has remained hidden successfully, and her mother finally leaves, convinced that her daughter is not there. It is then revealed that Somi's mother, Hyojong, is the very same dancer who stole the drug bag from the nightclub. Later, she arrives at the pawn shop carrying a camera and the stolen drugs, both of which she pawns with Tae-sik. After the transaction is completed, Tae-sik returns inside and discovers Somi playing with the flowers he had bought earlier. She has placed one of the flowers in her hair. For reasons she doesn't understand, this deeply irritates Tae-sik, and he angrily snatches the flower away from her. Elsewhere, a powerful drug trafficker named Oh Myung-gyu is dealing with his own problems. Furious over the loss of a large shipment of drugs, he brutally punishes his subordinate, Mansuk. Desperate to save himself, Mansuk claims that he knows who stole the drugs and promises to recover everything within 3 days. Myung-gyu agrees, but makes it clear that failure is not an option. At the same time, a man arrives at Somi's home and confronts Hyojong, demanding to know where the stolen drugs are. When she refuses to cooperate, he violently attacks her while Somi silently watches in terror. Unable to endure the situation any longer, Somi runs to Tae-sik's house and begs him to let her stay for the night. Although he rarely shows kindness, Tae-sik allows her to remain there. However, by the following morning, she has already left. Later that day, Tae-sik leaves his shop carrying flowers and boards a bus. While listening to music on Somi's MP3 player, he travels to a cemetery. There, it is revealed that he is visiting the grave of his late wife. After returning home, Tae-sik notices Somi being questioned by police officers for stealing a bag. Desperate to avoid punishment, she points toward Tae-sik and claims that he is her father. To her disappointment, Tae-sik simply walks away without saying a word, leaving both Somi and the officers confused. Not long afterward, Tae-sik catches Somi stealing once again at a grocery store. He attempts to pay for the item she stole, but the shopkeeper refuses. The owner explains that Somi does not steal because she needs things. Instead, she steals because she desperately wants attention and affection. The shopkeeper suggests that Tae-sik should spend more time with her. Soon afterward, Tae-sik finds Somi crying alone in an alleyway. She asks him to return her MP3 player and even offers him her lucky card in exchange. Before leaving, she admits that she was hurt when he ignored her in front of the police. However, she says she doesn't hate him because she believes that if she ever truly hated someone, she would lose her ability to like anyone at all. When Somi finally returns home, she is horrified to find her mother tied up and being tortured by Jong-suk, a drug dealer and the younger brother of Mansuk. Meanwhile, Tae-sik is suddenly confronted by several of Jong-suk's men. At first, he believes they are simply robbing him, so he calmly hands over his wallet. Instead of taking it, they mock him. In a split second, Tae-sik reacts with astonishing speed, grabbing one of their knives and revealing a glimpse of the dangerous skills he has kept hidden. Moments later, another associate named Ramron arrives and hands Tae-sik a phone. On the other end of the line is Jong-suk. As soon as Tae-sik answers, he hears the voices of Somi and her mother, confirming that they have been kidnapped. Jong-suk demands that Tae-sik hand over the camera bag Hyo-jong pawned earlier. Hoping to save the two hostages, Tae-sik immediately complies. However, instead of releasing them, Ramron suddenly shoots one of his own men to create confusion. Taking advantage of the chaos, he escapes and intentionally leaves his phone behind. The next day, Tae-sik receives another call from Jong-suk. Through the abandoned phone, he is given a new order. If he wants So-mi and Hyo-jong to stay alive, he must deliver a package of drugs to a Chinese dealer named Myung-gyu. With no other choice, Tae-sik follows the instructions. Using a vehicle provided to him, he transports the drugs and successfully completes the delivery. Once the exchange is finished, Tae-sik demands that Myung-gyu release So-mi and Hyo-jong. To his surprise, Myung-gyu appears genuinely confused and claims that he has no idea who they are. At that very moment, Myung-gyu receives a phone call from Man-suk. The call reveals that Man-suk has betrayed him and reported his location to the police as revenge. Within minutes, police forces surround the entire area. Believing Tae-sik is somehow connected to the betrayal, Myung-gyu orders his men to kill him. But Tae-sik reacts instantly. He escapes by jumping through a window and lands safely in a large net below. As he regains his footing, he notices Myung-gyu attempting to flee. Tae-sik quickly cuts himself free and begins pursuing him in a car. Despite the intense chase, Myung-gyu ultimately manages to escape both Tae-sik and the police. After the failed pursuit, Tae-sik exits his vehicle and notices that the trunk of a nearby car is slightly open. Curious, he approaches and looks inside. What he discovers horrifies him. Inside the trunk lies Hyo-jong's body, crudely stitched together after her organs have been harvested and sold. The shocking sight convinces Tae-sik that So-mi has likely suffered the same fate. Before he can process what he has seen, police officers arrive and immediately assume he is responsible for everything. Tae-sik is arrested and taken in for questioning. During the investigation, authorities search his pawn shop and discover the bodies of Jong-suk's men. This only strengthens their belief that Tae-sik is deeply involved in the crimes. Elsewhere, So-mi is still alive. She is handed over to an elderly woman who operates a criminal organization that forces children to work as drug couriers, trapping them in a dangerous and brutal system. Meanwhile, Tae-sik manages to escape from police custody, shocking law enforcement officers and forcing them to investigate his background more thoroughly. What they uncover changes everything. Tae-sik was once a highly trained covert operative working for South Korean military intelligence. After his wife was killed by a hitman, he abandoned that life and chose to live in isolation. Now, with So-mi missing and powerful criminals standing in his way, the deadly skills of his past are about to resurface. Now completely focused on finding So-mi, Tae-sik begins following every possible clue. His first lead is the cell phone Jong-suk had previously given him, which he had thrown away earlier. Determined to uncover its origin, Tae-sik visits a phone shop and demands information about the person who purchased it. Instead of cooperating, the shop owner secretly sends several men to attack him. Unfortunately for them, they have no idea who they are dealing with. Tae-sik quickly overwhelms every attacker and forces the terrified owner to reveal the truth. The owner finally hands over a business card connected to the phone's buyer, a man involved in an illegal organ trafficking operation. Without wasting a second, Tae-sik heads to the address printed on the card. The trail leads him to a nightclub, where he successfully tracks down a man named Du-chi, who has connections to the criminal network. Tae-sik immediately confronts him and violently demands information about So-mi's whereabouts. Before Du-chi can reveal anything useful, Ramron suddenly appears and opens fire. Tae-sik reacts instantly. Using Du-chi as a human shield, he protects himself from the bullets. The gunfire kills Du-chi on the spot, while Tae-sik escapes into a nearby restroom. Inside the bathroom, he hides within a stall as Ramron blindly fires through multiple doors, hoping to hit him. But Tae-sik waits for the perfect opportunity. Moving silently, he circles around and attacks Ramron from behind, catching him completely off guard before escaping from the area. Back in the crowded nightclub, Tae-sik spots Ramron once again, this time standing beside Man-suk. As if mocking him, Man-suk casually throws a phone toward Tae-sik. Before any confrontation can occur, police officers suddenly storm the club. It becomes clear that they have been tracking Tae-sik all along. The chaos gives Mansuk and Ramron the opportunity to flee. Taesik immediately gives chase, but the two criminals escape in a vehicle driven by Jong-suk. Refusing to let them get away, Taesik hijacks another car at gunpoint and continues the pursuit while also trying to avoid capture by the police. While driving, Taesik receives a phone call from Mansuk. Mansuk coldly threatens to sell Somi's cornea, making it clear that he is willing to do anything. Taesik responds with a chilling warning of his own, promising that Mansuk will deeply regret everything he has done. Soon afterward, Taesik arrives at the home of a trusted friend. There, he painfully removes the bullet lodged in his body. As he endures the procedure, memories from his past begin to surface. He remembers the tragic day his pregnant wife was killed. The flashback finally explains why Taesik always leaves a small child's shoe at her grave. It serves as a painful reminder of both his wife and the unborn child he lost. Once he recovers from the injury, Taesik immediately begins preparing for the next phase of his mission. He asks his friend to acquire a weapon for him. Despite the risks and warnings, his determination to rescue Somi remains unshakable. Not long afterward, Taesik receives important information from the police. CCTV footage has confirmed that Somi is still alive after she was seen withdrawing money from an ATM. In return for this information, Taesik finally tells the police everything. He explains his involvement in the situation and reveals how Hyojeon's body ended up inside his vehicle. Meanwhile, Somi is being held captive in a room alongside Ramron. Surprisingly, despite being a criminal, Ramron shows a small act of kindness by giving her a piece of cake. It is one of the few moments of compassion Somi has experienced since her kidnapping. At the same time, Taesik begins tracking the children being used as drug couriers throughout the city. During his surveillance, he eventually spots Somi. She is delivering shoes stuffed with ATM cards. Taesik carefully follows her movements and successfully traces the operation back to a specific building. Although police officers attempt to interfere with his actions, Taesik fights through the obstacles and continues his pursuit. Inside the building, he discovers that it is being used as a drug manufacturing facility. Numerous children are trapped inside and forced to work for the organization. Among them, Taesik notices one child who has already collapsed from exhaustion. Continuing deeper into the building, he enters a restricted section and finally comes face-to-face with Jong-suk. Without hesitation, Taesik shoots him. Afterward, Taesik contacts Mansuk and demands to know Somi's exact location. However, Mansuk refuses to cooperate even while Jong-suk is being tortured for information. By this point, Taesik has lost all patience and mercy. Eventually, he kills Jong-suk and destroys the entire facility. Elsewhere, Somi is being prepared for surgery. A doctor working under Mansuk's orders intends to harvest her organs. Ramron watches nearby as the doctor explains that Somi's mother suffered the same fate. However, Somi still believes her mother is alive. Confused and frightened, she continues asking questions, unable to understand what is happening. As the conversation continues, Ramron begins showing visible signs of hesitation. For the first time, guilt starts affecting him. Eventually, Taesik discovers the location of the final building where Somi is being held. The moment he enters, he notices two eyeballs lying on the floor. The horrifying sight immediately convinces him that Somi has already been killed. Devastated by grief, Taesik channels every ounce of pain into pure rage. What follows is a relentless assault. Moving with incredible speed and deadly precision, he tears through Mansuk's organization, eliminating every man who stands in his way. One by one, Mansuk's men fall. Finally, Taesik reaches Mansuk himself and kills him, bringing the criminal empire crashing down. After wiping out everyone responsible, Taesik feels that there is nothing left for him in the world. Believing Somi is dead, he loses the will to continue living and prepares to take his own life. But just before he pulls the trigger, he hears a familiar voice. Somi calls out to him. To his overwhelming relief, she is still alive. The realization instantly changes everything. In the end, Taesik is captured by the police. Later, it is revealed that the eyeballs he saw earlier did not belong to Somi at all. They belonged to the surgeon who had been killed during transport. Before being taken away, Taesik asks the officers for one final favor. He requests that they stop at a nearby store. There, he purchases several items for Somi. With deep regret in his heart, Tae-sik apologizes for abandoning her when she needed him most. He encourages her to stay strong and keep moving forward. As they prepare to say goodbye, Tae-sik finally embraces her. For a man who spent years hiding his emotions, it is an incredibly powerful moment. Holding Somi tightly while struggling to hold back tears, Tae-sik finally allows himself to show the affection he had been denying for so long. And with that emotional farewell, the story comes to an end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.